and reconvene this meeting of the Yosemite Community College District Board of Trustees for June 13th, 2013. Back into session from closed session, and just give me a moment here. If you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. Okay, we'll move on now to item 3.2, report out from closed session. The only issue that we have to report out on is with respect to item 2.4. Trustee Beggs recused herself with respect to item 2.4, and that's all we have on that. 3.3, move on now to swearing in of new student trustee. And our chancellor will be administering the oath of office. I will. Yeah.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I
Ninebra Mansour,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support,
and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will
bear
bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and to the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
that I will well
and faithfully
and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
which I am to enter.
about which I am about to enter.
Of the Yosemite Community District. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. We appreciate your taking the time to get involved in student government and for your input with all of us. It's very helpful to have a student up here, and we appreciate you doing that. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to item 3.4, approval of minutes of the May 9th, 2018 Board of Trustees regular meeting. I'll give the fellow trustees a moment to review those minutes, and then I'll entertain a motion.
Chair Garrett,
Yes.
I have a correction to item 5.2. The second line should read ASMJC served approximately 10,000 lunches for students. So we're adding the lunches for.
Okay, are there any other corrections? Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved by trustee Rojas. Is there a second? Second by trustee Viss. Is there any further discussion? Trustee DeMartini.
No, I'm getting ready to vote.
Oh, getting ready to vote. Okay. So with the motion and a second and no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
I do
now-
have a request, Chair Garrett. When our new student trustee introduced herself, I did not get her name. And I would love to get your name and maybe even hear a little bit about you.
I would love to. So, hello everyone. My name is Ninebra Mansour, and I'm in my third year at Modesto Junior College. I'm a biological sciences major and plan to transfer to UC Davis. My long-term goal is to attend medical school and become a dermatologist. MJC has always been my home away from home. I am so extremely humbled and honored to have the opportunity to serve the students of Modesto Junior College and Columbia College. Thank you to Chancellor Young for his words of wisdom and encouragement as I embark on this new journey. And I want to thank everyone for this amazing opportunity, and I'm looking forward to working with and getting to know all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to have a change in the agenda. So before we go on to item 3.5, public comments, and we want to hear from everybody. We want to take that time and set that time aside so we do hear from everybody. But we need to take something out of order, and that would be items 7.1 and 7.2 to Connie Chavez, and that's in regards to the first and second reading items for board policy. And while you have all this authority, Connie, is there anything else you want to do while you're up there?
Oh, gosh, I was thinking of something. You know what? I just can't think of anything. right
Okay.
now. Darn it.
We'll keep it to 7.1 and 7.2. How's that?
Keep it there. Thank you. The Board Policy Committee met on Monday, and so we'll take a look at second reads first. This is item 7.1. They had no additional recommendations for revision on 2015 student member. So if there's nothing there, I'll go on to 4020, program and curriculum development. No additional recommendations for change there. 4105, no additional recommendations for change there. And 4240, academic renewal, there were recommended changes. And so you should have those at your seat. They are in red. So in the policy line 7, we added in the phrase as described in AP 4240. So it would read previously recorded substandard academic performance, comma, as described in AP 4240, comma. We also added on line 13 an additional cross-reference to policy 4250, probation, dismissal, and readmission. Those were the recommended changes to that policy.
I'd like to comment, Connie, that on academic renewal, it says that previously recorded substandard academic performance, and what substandard is, we wanted them to add what it is, and so we added as described in AP 4240, because someone wanting to go in the nursing program may have a different idea of what substandard is compared to another field. I just wanted to explain that.
So those are second readings, and if there were no other comments there, those were the recommended changes from our Monday meeting.
So,
Discussion on the meaning of the grade D. Is that passing or is it not passing?
So do we have any instructional folks here in the room? Do we have any MVPs? No? Senate? No? Presidents, would you like to take that one?
Is that right? I see. Not sure I understand.
So for example, I'll use a student that I'm aware of. There are the golden four that the CSUs, so if you're transferring to CSU, they call them the golden four, right? And so you have your English, you have your core classes. Those need to have a C or better. This student transferred with that C or better. She did have a D on her academic record, and she was still allowed to transfer. Now, while that was a substandard grade, she was still able to graduate and she was still able to transfer as long as it wasn't in that golden four, like your English, your math, those kinds of classes. So that's
Now, I thought a C was average. and a D was below average, but still would work.
It can work, like with that example I gave you, it can work for that student to graduate, and it can work for them to transfer, just as long as it wasn't in those specific courses.
Now, if a D was not passing, I would still be in high school.
And you gave out a lot of Ds when you taught high school.
It's a matter of time. You get one?
No comment.
Thank you.
Well, if you get 3 C's and a D, you're eligible for probation. Is that correct?
Ooh, you know what, I don't know off the top of my head, what the GPA would be. I think we talk about it here in some of the
Yeah,
policies,
that's-
but I don't know how
That
they
would
calculate.
be below 175.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the calculation.
I'm just, I don't know, I'm just nervous about that. I think that part of the population is below average, and a D is below average. Can you play football if you get a D's?
That I'm not sure of, but I can check on that. I can check on what the athletic requirements are. I can check. I tend to think in GPA, but I'll check on the actual specific grades.
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't want to make a federal case about it.
Check.
Go ahead.
So Connie, are we going to go over the administrative procedure changes as well on the second reading, or
There were, let's see, were there any on the second read?
just wanted to give you an opportunity, didn't want to pass over anything?
I don't believe that there were any for the
Okay.
second readings. I think
For the second reading, okay. So with that, you're ready for us to approve, correct?
ready.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion that since we conducted our second reading, that the Board of Trustees approves the following YCCD policies which are listed on the agenda.
I'll move that we approve the second reading of the policies listed on the agenda.
Okay, motion by trustee DeMartini, is there a second? Second by trustee Martin, is there any further discussion? We've already had the historical perspective from trustee Vish, so seeing none or hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Okay, we'll move on now to item 7.2, board policy, first reading.
Okay, thank you. So now we get on to some really exciting ones, course repetition. They start to get pretty technical here when we talk about repeating courses. But 4026, we'll start with, we did have some recommended changes there in the policy. Change the word on line 9 from will to may. And then in the administrative procedure, there was some feedback to make some changes, and that occurs on line 7 and 8. We wanted to have a little bit more, ability to be broad in our sentence. So we said international education should encourage programs that support learning, and then strike out about other cultures and global issues. And at the end, replace such as with for example. And then on lines 10 and 12, we had some changes where instead of develop, we just start with the sentence, courses of study to increase students' understanding of global issues. So those are the 4 examples. And then on line 12, again, rather than starting with offer, we start with just the statement, courses and languages. And then going down to the second half on line 23, removing with sufficient geographic diversity. And the idea there was the statement, encourage the presence of qualified students from other countries, and not limiting it to a sufficient geographic diversity, but just kind of opening it up. And then in the third bullet point on line 28, again, rather than limiting it, we're saying initiate collaborative research undertakings and remove to address issues of global significance. And then lastly, last bullet, replace competent with aware. So we'll have globally aware students or citizens. So those were the recommended changes there in 4026. And with the rest of the slate, we had no additional recommended changes.
Hey, are there any questions for Connie with respect to item 7.2?
I don't have a question, but I would just like to say that I think Connie does an outstanding job of chairing this committee, and I'd like you to know that and be, you know, commended for it. I think the rest of the committee feels the same way, and thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good talks. We have good talks.
Your last chance. You want to take up into nothing else, huh?
Still haven't
Okay.
thought of anything. I
I'm
need to
giving
be
you the
fast-
authority right now. Okay.
Need to be faster on my feet.
All right. Thank you, Connie. Have a good evening. Okay, give me a moment to catch myself here. Okay, now we'll get back on the posted agenda timelines here. 3.5, public comments. And first up, as we value our student input, Andrew Skidmore? Is that correct? All right.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Skidmore, and I'd like to share my experience with the credit by exam process. As a senior in high school, I was accepted to many schools on scholarships: Purdue, Iowa State University, Texas A&M, Cal Poly, to name a few, including a full ride scholarship to Fresno State. Yet, when I graduated in 2016, I declined all of these offers to serve as the state FFA president. Yet after my year of service had concluded, I decided to come to MJC because I thought it would provide the best foundation for my future. I was determined to transfer in just 1 year, so besides work and school involvement, in 2 semesters, I've gotten 65 units: calculus, physics, and philosophy, to name just a few, all with straight A's, with the exception of 1B. But when it came to transferring, I was denied from every institution I applied to. As you are aware, the CSU transfer requirements include A1, 3 units in oral communication. One of these classes that fulfills that requirement is Introduction to Public Speaking. After registering for the course, being waitlisted, and attending the first week of class, I wasn't allowed to join the section. So on January 8th, I started the credit by exam process. In meeting with the communications instructor, I experienced the first detour from MJC policy, when I was forced to follow a credit by exam process from 1997, which did not follow the credit by exam policy that is listed in the course catalog. Regardless, I pursued, filing the necessary paperwork in addition to my official petition. I received approval from enrollment services, and upon meeting with the dean on January 26th, my petition was approved. However, I was advised by the dean to wait on paying for the course until he checked on a few things. On February 12th, the second large deviation from MJC's official policy occurred when I was informed directly by the Communication Studies Department that they would not be accepting my petition that had already been approved. Over the next few months, I would engage in dozens of interactions, patiently working with staff and administration to understand why I was being held up and what needed to be done to resolve this issue. I eventually worked my way up to meeting with President Dr. Stearns on April 9th. Yet after a month of follow-up email conversations, no resolution had occurred. Typically, this would not be a big deal, but this course was my only barrier to entry into a 4-year institution. By May 27th, I had been denied from every institution I'd applied to: Cal Poly, University of Texas, Texas A&M, Stanford, and Fresno State, where I had a full ride scholarship to just 2 years prior. So how has your lack of action impacted me? In order to attend an A1 fulfilling summer school course, I had to turn down a paid traveling summer engineering internship with Sentient Foods. Because of the tardiness of your decisions, by the time I had appealed my denial and was admitted, all the scholarships at Fresno State had already been granted. As I moved home for the summer, I now had to drive to Modesto twice a week to attend this course. Most disappointing. Any opportunities, chances, or experiences I could have had with a premier college, I never even got the chance to fairly compete for admission. Simply put, I got screwed over. Besides being forced to follow policies not included in the MJC course catalog, MJC has failed to honor the agreements they have committed to. would you accept that same level of performance from me? Most of us is irreversible damage, impossible to rectify. But I remain steadfast in the same thing that I've always asked for, a resolution. I'm here to ask for two things. First, an apology in writing on official letterhead. Throughout this process, although many administrators and instructors have been quick to sympathize, no one has stepped forth, recognized the failure, and apologized. Please, be a role model for your students and own up to your mistake. 2, I don't know if this has impacted anyone else in the past, but I want to fix this process to ensure that it never happens to anyone else in the future. I don't know who or what I got caught in between, but I'll tell you who was the biggest loser in this situation: me. I will be back on July 11th to learn what changes have occurred and what measures are in place so that the biggest barrier to our students' success isn't the educational institution they're attending. Here's a flash drive of all the documentation of this process. All email communications, meeting summaries, denial and appeal letters, scans of forms, and copies of the MJC course policies. I've only had the opportunity to share a snippet with you here today. I'm sorry your organization has allowed this issue to rise to this level. Trust me, I would have loved to fix this months ago as well. I hope to work with you to make sure that this is right, not only for myself, but for anyone else that may follow. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming here this evening, and thank you for your comments. And as the chair, yes? Sure.
Put your mic on.
I want to say that Andrew has been my student, and he's been one of my very best students in argumentation class. And insofar as you're impressed by his presentation, I want some credit. But I will go on to say this. I was part, now by the way, I made that same statement in a number of meetings of the Communication Studies Department, which I'm a member. And his petition was carefully and extensively discussed. Now, I won't get into the particulars and the various interpretations and points of view. I will say that the department has recognized that the 1997 wording and so on needs revision and clarification. I believe that will be done. And I'll personally apologize that that revision and clarification did not happen sooner before you applied. But I do want to say my colleagues were acting in good faith and on a professional basis, and they never went one discussion without hearing my assessment of Andrew Skidler.
So as you know, when at public comment, the board can't take any action. We can recognize you and thank you, and I do, and I know the other board members do. So I think rather than getting into the weeds tonight, because it's not on the agenda, that we bring it back to next month and we have a discussion on this. That would be my recommendation. So
I'd like to add to that we have asked the chancellor to do a little research that he can inform us of some of this, because Andrew, I had the opportunity to meet you a couple months ago, and I tried to assist you. I have no power, so some of these things are not done by the board, but it appears that you've not been treated fairly.
well,
But I don't know all the
remember,
rules.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we can't get into the weeds
Okay.
tonight. We've got to.
I would just like the chancellor to look into this before the meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to my next card is for Debbie Partridge, who will be speaking on behalf of Gail Campbell, not in her official capacity as CSEA president. She'll do that later, I think.
Good evening, trustees. Oops, sorry. I'm going to read you a letter that was presented to me by retiree Gail Campbell. To the YCCD board members, I am requesting my letter be read to this board for representation of myself since I am unable to attend. I retired from the Regional Fire Training Center in June of 2014 and was devastated by a certified letter I received almost 4 years later, back in January 2018, from CalPERS. It stated that my longevity pay had been posted incorrectly and that I would be expected to repay the overage as well as have my monthly allotment decreased. I had moved to Texas after retiring and purchased a home. During the process, I had to submit a statement from CalPERS stating my retirement income and how long I would receive it. This was completed and I purchased my home, never imagining that YCCD had made catastrophic errors in reporting my longevity pay. The point is not who is to blame, but why do the retirees have to pay for this extreme negligence? Apparently, this has gone on for quite some time. Therefore, it is my opinion that the district be held responsible for this hardship that has been laid upon all of us. We as Modesto Junior College employees worked very hard to keep the departments running smoothly. I worked days and hours that went unreimbursed, but we did it due to our dedication for the reputation of the college and mostly for the students. It was the last thing any of us ever imagined that our final retirement compensation was wrong due to lack of oversight. My monthly deduction may not seem like much to you. However, with the increased cost of property tax, insurance, food, and the basic living expenses, it has created a hardship for my household. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, Gail Campbell. Am I allowed to add my own comments, or is that not acceptable?
I think if you want, when you do your association report outs, I think you can add it then would be good. If you want to stay up there, because I have one for you with respect to Measure E.
Okay. Made it easy for me.
Okay, we try.
Okay, as you board members know, I am retiring from the district after 40 years of service. And I find it more difficult to advocate for myself than I do for my members. I do want to start this by stating that this is no reflection of the current administration or those that are over the facilities department. This stuff happened prior to the administration that is in there now. These are things that I'm going to be speaking on based on a community member and as an employee who has seen some things that I just do not believe are right. And the underlying tone I want you to get is there's a lot of stuff that classified employees see throughout the district, but nobody will come and talk to you about it. There's fear, there's retaliation, even though we have language in our contract against retaliation and protection for whistleblowers, people will not come forward. Retaliation is very clever. Very simple, very under the line. The management's not doing anything wrong, but members are treated unfairly if they bring something forward. And they can be disciplined even though there's nothing wrong with the performance of their duties. As much as we are dedicated to helping students succeed, we all have responsibilities outside of work, which include supporting a household and a family. Measure E. I phone banked. I believed in Measure E. I believe in MJC. I love MJC. I can't believe that I'm going to be leaving. And I was on the phone telling people what a great thing Measure E was going to be. We were going to build this parking structure so we don't have to have parking problems anymore. I realized a decision was made that changed, and it actually was beneficial. We got more parking spaces and it was easier to keep secure. I understand that, but I can tell you I had many people calling me, family members and friends who I had told this is what we're gonna get. And now they're coming saying, what do you mean you're not getting, where's the parking permit? Parking structure. And I will tell you, a group of 6 of us that worked at this district for a long time for a while bought lottery tickets, and we were going to pay for a parking structure because we believed that strongly in it. We never won the lottery, sorry. Okay, I live locally, and in my taxes on my house, I see the YCCD board Measure E. So I'm going to share some things that I've observed that I believe that the taxpayers' money was not used as efficiently as promised. I will state that I have never read the contracts and what Kitchell has promised to do. I will share what YCCD employees had to do to make things work, modifying the realm of, mostly in the realm of technology because that's my area. Most of these things do not have a net high cost while others do, but I believe nickel and diming can add up to some major money. So I'm going to start with Student Services Building 128. It was built as a classroom. In the job that I do for the district, often when a new building is built, I am directed, go in there, check all the media stuff, make sure it works. So when I went in there, I observed, I don't know if you've been in Student Services Building 128, but there's a big window up high. When the building was originally built, there were blinds put up there with remote control to raise and lower the blinds, because it's really way up high. And this has been a while, so I don't know the amount of time, but one time when I was in there, I noticed a grease stain down the wall coming from the motor from these blinds. So I reported it. They cleaned the wall and they removed the blinds. So we paid for blinds, we paid to have them installed, and we paid to have them taken down, and what do we have? A window with no blinds. I just think that's atrocious. Student Services Building 203, upstairs, it's a conference room. In the wall, there's a connection for an HDMI. You look up at the projector, there's an HDMI cable going to the projector. Somewhere, nowhere do the twain meet. You connect here, nothing shows up here. Luckily, we have a second connector of a VGA connector, so we are able to use the room, but we paid to be able to use it in a different way, and a lot of new laptops coming out no longer have the VGA connector. They have the HDMI connector. When the CAT building, Center for Advanced Technology building, was open, I was again directed, go check every single room. We were pressured, the grand opening, the ribbon cutting was coming, make sure the media works. So I went through there diligently with the check sheet, and there were some problems. And Dan Porter at the time was overseeing the project. And I approached him thinking, hey, let's work this out, get these problems solved before the ribbon cutting, we're all good. Dan Porter told me, I can't talk to you. Okay, fine. So I don't know what happened, but I did continue to check the buildings, and we did finally get the rooms up and running. CAT 262 is a conference room. In that room, there's an HDMI connection. Video works, audio does not. Now that makes no sense whatsoever, because an HDMI cable sends audio and video signal together. I don't know if it's a setting in the TV. I reported it before the building opened. As of last week, it still is not operational. So. Okay, CAT 116, another Center for Advanced Technology room. We recently had a problem, and it was determined the contractor had used network cable instead of good quality Extron low voltage stranded cable. Media Services replaced the RS-262 serial cable on the projector, and now the room is functional again. Founders Hall 214, this was one of the early ones, and that was a renovation. So I'm scheduled to go videotape a classroom. So I go in there and I plug in my equipment at the back of the room, and there's no power. I'm like, wow, that's weird. So I report it to facilities, they come out. The contractors had put an outlet, two plug outlet. Nothing was connected behind it. So the next time I went to the room, a blank plaque was over there, and I had to run an extension cord around to be able to do what I needed to do.
Debbie, I'm gonna just, I know we want to get everybody participation. We got a few more to go.
Okay.
So if I could, send that list over.
Okay.
And also send it to the chancellor.
Okay.
And so we can get these issues rectified. So someone like yourself, and I don't think some heard, she's got 40 years here at this district. So there's a lot of passion with you, and we appreciate that and understand that. Get it to the chancellor so we get the cross communication so we can get these things fixed.
Okay.
Okay? Because I can't comment, but I understand what you're saying. So thank you very much.
More atrocities.
Oh, I'm sure. Next, we have Christine Serrano.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I am Christine Serrano. I worked at Modesto Junior College from February 1998 to December 31st, 2013, when I retired. I retired as an administrative specialist at the yearly salary of $47,000. Why am I here in front of all of you? Believe me, I'd rather be anywhere else. My financial disaster began on January 5th, 2018, when I received a letter explaining that CalPERS Office of Audit Services had recently conducted a PAR audit on compensations reported by YCCD. The audit identified compensation that doesn't comply with PEARL, California Public Employees Retirement Law. Because of this audit, the out-of-class stipend of $800 I received from May 2011 to December 31st, 2011, has already been withdrawn from my retirement and longevity account for the total amount of $7,798. That isn't all. Beginning on July 1st, 2018, and for the next 5 years, my retirement benefits of $1,636 a month will be reduced by $300. My calculations of this loss to my family's financial future will amount to $18,600, plus the $7,798 already withdrawn, for a total amount of $26,458. My guess is that my prior taxes and Social Security benefits will also be impacted. I won't be giving any of you a big thank you for this financial loss to my family. The district's failure to hire a qualified person with payroll background should not be the retiree's responsibility. It is not the job of the employee to double-check payroll procedures. Why should I have to repay your mistake when you had internal oversight of payroll from a high-paid controller, and vice chancellor of fiscal services? I could go on and on. I'm here to assert that the district is responsible for this financial disaster. It is my understanding from talking to other retirees that more than 50 of us will be suffering from your mistakes. What is the total loss to these retirees? The lack of transparency and cover-up by the district is appalling. It shows the lack of respect for retirees by this Board of Trustees. Do you even care? Shame on you. Thank you for listening. I know I'm speaking for many others. The district needs to investigate and shoulder this financial mess. We have seen many other situations where huge administrative mistakes have been bought off with district resources and with insurance. Please don't pick on those who earned less and gave years of dedication to this district. Who is the loser in this situation?
Thank you. Next we have Mary Ott. Okay.
My name is Mary Ott, a 6-year retiree after 13 years of service in the financial aid office as an administrative secretary. I am appalled and angry over my treatment by YCCD. My household is impacted by YCCD errors out of compliance to various GC sections according to CalPERS. It is my understanding there were 2 major errors from the district affecting over 50 of us retirees. There may even be more as CalPERS looks into others now that they know there's an issue within YCCD. It would be one thing if this was only one error at one time on 1 to 2 persons, but these errors are multiple and were made over years to many, and YCCD wants me to be responsible? Shame on you. I relied on YCCD to accurately calculate and submit to CalPERS those figures determining my retirement allowance. From the initial calculation information given to CalPERS by YCCD on my behalf, I made life decisions. The overall calculations were not in my control, but yours. I was not given an option to accept or decline your calculations. It was all out of my control. I expected YCCD staff to do their job they were trained for and protect me. How can I be sure your new calculations are correct? You expect me to accept what you say and then take the fall if you're wrong? How dare you? Early 2017, after CalPERS's audit, YCCD was contacted by CalPERS, but you failed to respond, costing me additional overpayment fees. Again, shame on you. YCCD has blatantly refused to address their error with CalPERS or me. I had written the Chancellor and the YCC board to no avail, all in vain. Not one acknowledgement, not one response back. It is one thing that I have to accept a reduction in my monthly allowance going forward, but I do not accept responsibility for YCCD's errors of an overpayment. I expect YCCD to take responsibility now to avoid costly legal judgment and fees to you or me. It's a travesty what YCCD has done and is doing to us retirees. And like our student said, I think several of us are being screwed.
Okay. Thank you. That's the end of the cards that were filled out for public comment. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during public comment period?
I would.
Okay, please step forward.
Okay, I can speak from here, you can hear me. No?
Oh, you got to come up. Thank you.
I wasn't planning on speaking. I was going to allow them to do, but passion has overtaken me. My name is Kathy Ratto. I worked for the district for 15 years. I worked for students. This young man, I would have rescued and made phone calls for and stood up and taken the brunt. When I got ready to retire, it was based on figures this district submitted to PERS. I'm a single woman. I don't have a husband or a partner. I only have my income. I made the lifelong decision to retire based on those numbers. I bought a car. I made lifelong decisions since I've retired. And now I have to sit down and actually find and figure out, do I go back to work? I'm 65 in the fall. I've worked for the state for 32 years between 2 districts. And this district will not respond to any questions. How did this happen? If it happened to you, would you sit down and not ask questions after you've retired, made those lifelong decisions? Who's the loser in this? We are. You need to stand up and take responsibility and answer our questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on now to item 4, board committee reports. 4.1, the Board Finance Committee. The Board Finance Committee, which is made of myself, Trustee Rojas, and Trustee Viss, met on Monday, June 4th. And the items that were discussed was the monthly financial report, giving us an update on the financial condition of the district and the 2 colleges. And I'm happy to report that we're on track and everything is fine there. We were given a presentation by our folks that are going to be doing the customary annual audit of the district and of the foundations, et cetera. So we were given a brief presentation on that and what their schedule will be. We were given an update on where we stand on our full-time equivalent students, or FTESs, and we're fine in that regard. And then we were given what's in your agenda tonight, which is our tentative budget for the upcoming year. That's a pretty fast rundown. Do the other members have anything they'd like to add? Okay. Okay. Moving on now to item 4.2, the Board Policy Committee report, and I'll turn that over to Trustee DeMartini.
Thank you, Darren. Because we took business out of order tonight, we have actually gone over and approved the first readings and, yes, we approved those and adopted the second reading. So I think I don't need to say specifically what we did at our meeting on Monday, but I do want you to know that the three members on this committee, Lynn Martin, Leslie Beggs, myself, work very hard on studying the policies and asking questions. The area that we are in now on some of these policies are rather technical and deal with a lot of the faculty authority. And I just want to say publicly how helpful it is to have Lynn Martin, a retired counselor for 20 years on the committee, because there's a lot of stuff that we don't know what it is, and she answers it for us. So thank you.
Okay. Any other committee members want to add anything? No? Okay. We move on now to item 5, reports and information items. 5.1, presentation, year in review, college priorities 2017 to 2018. And this looks like it will be a team effort between our two college presidents, Dr. Stern and Dr. Fairchild. And we need to celebrate this moment because this will be the last presentation of these two people. I'm getting a smile and an affirmative from Dr. Stern.
The band is breaking up. Yeah. Okay. Good evening, Chancellor and Board. It's our privilege to once more tag team, maybe for the final time, a presentation to you. And, you know, when I came on board almost 4.5 years ago, Jill and I decided that one of our priorities would be that we would work collaboratively, we would show leadership in the colleges coming together and working together on I think just building a better relationship, let's say it that way, and not be competitive, adversarial, but we wanted to bring the work of the colleges together so that we were sharing the responsibility of serving all of the students in our service area. And so we started out with us talking about how we would work together, and then we came up with the idea of, well, we need to bring our leadership teams together, and so we started holding joint meetings at least once a year. And initially, we focused those meetings on the initiatives in the state, how we were working to address the many initiatives that were coming down several years ago. And so over the next couple of years, we kind of further defined how the context around that work. And so, and of course, accreditation was the backdrop for a lot of that, a triple SP and that kind of thing. But last year, when we had our joint meeting, because we had a new chancellor on board, we decided to frame our joint meeting around how are the colleges going to support the goals that the board had worked out with the chancellor. So how could we support Chancellor Young in his work and connect the work of the colleges to the work of the district? And so that's how we're going to present the work that we've accomplished this last year is in the context of the chancellor's goals. So goal number 1, recognizing that the fiscal well-being of the district is intimately tied to FTES generation, and since FTES is often considered as an indicator of our services to the community at large, the Chancellor will work with the presidents and their teams to increase FTES at their respective institutions.
So some of the ways that we're supporting goal number 1 is the alignment of curriculum across the colleges, our engagement in CCAP, high school partnerships and dual enrollment, the instruction of incarcerated students.
And each college has adopted a way of encouraging students to take a full load. So MJC has 15 to finish, and Columbia has Think 30. We've also expanded our online offerings to try to expand access to students who cannot come to the main campuses. We've done an analysis of drop for non-payments and the recommendation for change, which is in process now.
We've engaged in a review of low-enrolled courses and programs. Both colleges are participating in guided pathways, reform, and redesign. Our strong workforce program expansion and implementation is ongoing.
We've adopted academy models for CTE programs, a cohort model for apprenticeships, and we're expanding our markets in Oakdale and in the local prisons.
We've continued to focus on scheduling efficiency. We've implemented retention strategies, including education planning initiative and success coaches. We have significantly increased our outreach.
And the faculty have been involved in Open Education Resource Initiative and looking at ways to reduce textbook costs. We've implemented the Promise Scholarship, and we've implemented at MJC free city and county transportation. And I might add that we're looking into that at Columbia as well.
We've improved service to niche student groups, including working parents and re-entry students. We have engaged in faculty development on retention strategies, and we have significantly improved customer service.
Okay, Q training, Q is...
Center for Urban Education, and we specifically at MJC have engaged them to work with cohorts of faculty in syllabus review around equity.
Okay, and we've implemented a student ambassador program, and we've been carefully monitoring the wait list so that we can shift students to vacant seats.
At MJC, we have invested in Ad Astra that's providing us schedule analytics to help drive even more data-based decision-making in our course scheduling. We've engaged in professional development on enrollment management across both colleges. And at MJC, we've launched our baccalaureate degree program.
We've also been looking into why students drop and when they drop. We've done a review and design of seamless registration across the district, and IT is busy helping us solve that issue too. We've expanded non-credit program offerings, and we've increased evening and distance education programs.
And that's the most number of initiatives that we have that are directly in support of goal number 1. The second goal is that the chancellor would help college presidents have quality and growing DE programs. And we have a dual enrollment DE model with our high schools that has been implemented. At MJC, approaching 50% of all faculty have been trained in Canvas, and at Columbia College, 80% of the faculty have received training in Canvas.
Both colleges offer exceptional professional development for faculty, including adjuncts. There's faculty support via the DE coordinators at both colleges, and the curriculum committee at both colleges have been reviewing and approving distance education courses.
We have a full-time faculty member committed to, did you already say that?
Well, I think it's, yeah.
I think we're out of order. I'm sorry about that. We have a faculty serving as the distance education coordinator at each college. We offer comprehensive online student services for our online students. And now even have an online orientation and campus tour that's available.
And there's 24/7 tech support available for Canvas, excuse me. And then we have Hobson Starfish being implemented to increase access to counseling services for online students.
We have a student IT help desk and dedicated distance education workspace. We've been increasing the number of GE classes available online, including guidance classes.
And we've been recruiting adjunct faculty with DE expertise to expand course sections and offerings. And Columbia College serves as an OEI pilot college, but we got into that with the help of our MJC colleagues who were offering the classes, and we were doing the OEI tutoring, online tutoring. We were piloting that. We've seen an increase across the district of distance ed from 6% to 26% of total FTES.
MJC was just accepted into the OEI and is working toward that end. The Distance Education Strategic Plan was updated in fall of 17. And high-quality equity training for faculty is integrated into our online training program.
I think this is a repeat, but facilitating student enrollment at both colleges through eliminating process barriers. And we've been examining the growth in the number of fully online students. Looking at the increase in numbers of students and where they are, those that are taking classes only online. And of course, increasing the support services for online students who are at remote sites. Okay, goal number 3, open lines of communication with the board and keep trustees informed of district matters. Meet with trustees on a regular basis, either individually or in small groups. So to support that, campus-wide strategic plans provide platform for uniform messaging. We have the Ed Master Plan work groups tasked with producing documented data and research that will inform college planning. Open communication from leadership team to the exec team that enables informed communication from the presidents to the chancellor.
We've engaged in collaborative board presentations. We hold joint vice president and dean's meetings twice a year, and we have protocols and channels for communication.
And of course, you see us every month for us to give updates to you as college presidents on behalf of each of our colleges. And I think the new Board of Trustees committees with college representation has really helped in that regard too, plus the study sessions for the Board of Trustees on key matters of finance, accreditation, and enrollment management. Now, Jill gets credit for this last one because I have to admit, I have not made very many CBOC meetings, but college president presence at CBOC meetings. And of course, when you all come visit us and learn more about what's going on out in the field.
And goal number 4 is a focus on historically underserved and underrepresented students and recognizing the important linkage between instruction and student success. The chancellor will work closely with the presidents and their teams to understand the instructional needs of the colleges and challenges to student success so that the chancellor could support them. And to that end, we have the Adult Education Consortium with the colleges and districts. Columbia College expanded service to incarcerated individuals at SCC, and both colleges are offering apprenticeships.
Okay, and then of course we've initiated CCAPS and with all of the area high schools, and we've increased dual enrollment. Our friend Q, we've had training for faculty and leadership, and then of course the baccalaureate degree in respiratory care.
Both colleges have developed new non-credit certificates. And using strong workforce program funding, we have expanded career services at both colleges. And in our student leadership area, Project LEAD has been launched to develop leaders as well.
And a significant increase in collaboration between the colleges, both in the instructional areas and student services. And I think student services led that charge, but you've seen recently how both academic Senate presidents have spoken about the work that they are doing to try to align the curriculum, and you know, that's exciting for college president to see those kind of presentations, and probably the VPIs as well. And then, of course, you've heard about guided pathways in many different venues, but that is helping us retain students and streamline their time from start to finish. Pathway Centers and One Stop Center at MJC, and the counselor/faculty cohort model for programs.
And these last few items we've already talked about because they relate to other goals as well, but it's the promotion of our student success efforts. It's the free transportation to campus, the addition of non-credit certificates, and the continued effort to remove barriers for students so that they have ease of enrollment across both colleges.
So goal number 5, and I'll let you know now that the Chancellor had 6 goals, so we're getting there. The Chancellor will work across the district to identify and implement financial efficiencies. Of course, we have the Prop 39 energy efficiency projects that Judy reports on periodically. We've looked at consolidation of manager duties, including the bookstore and food services. So we've been thinking out of the box about how can we serve both colleges through in a particular function by minimizing management and still without reducing services to students. And then Jill mentioned earlier on the implementation of Ad Astra as an enrollment management data analysis tool.
The transition to Canvas came with a hefty savings to the district as it's currently available at no cost and provided by the State Chancellor's Office. We use our some of our Measure E reserves have had a significant effect when we combine them with our scheduled maintenance monies, and we've been able to tackle some long-standing problems through that. And our use of categorical funds has helped to relieve some pressure on our general fund expenditures.
And both colleges have studied workflows to identify ways to leverage existing personnel in more efficient ways. And you've seen the result of that when we've done reorgs as they've come through in various departments. Created new student services representative position to provide services across all areas from a single staff member, so cross-training for more versatility. And I think you've seen that both colleges have been going out to get to find grants and qualify for grants that to support the priorities and pay for programs and staffing to provide those services.
We've looked for efficiencies in policy review and revision, and fundraising in support of our foundations and programs, and we require our enterprise operations to be self-sustaining.
You may remember that I actually got myself on the front page of the newspaper for this one, and that was revamping our scheduling practices to make them more efficient, and more effective, and more student-centered, and both colleges have done a lot of work in that regard. We've explored the integration of technology systems, for example, a move to single point of sale system. We've mentioned this earlier, we're revisiting the drop for non-payment policy and practice, and I already mentioned the reorganizations of operational areas for efficiency.
And finally, goal number 6. And this is with a recognition that the educational and career training programs at our colleges need to be sustained in order to continue serving our students. The Chancellor will work to build bridges with the external community. The Chancellor will specifically seek opportunities of collaboration, support, and partnerships for our colleges in their mission to serve the diverse students of the district. And one example of that is our Allied Health Program partnership between MJC and Columbia College to deliver the registered nursing program. We also have a partnership with the Gallo Center for the Arts, and with Michael, the Modesto Institute for Continued Learning, that has a very strong presence here on our West Campus.
Okay, we've mentioned CCAPS and dual enrollment. We've used strong workforce resources to support the development of new CTE programs. And as part of that, stackable certificates, so students have a way of building their credentials.
At Columbia College, they have student industry dinners. At MJC, we have a CTE open house coupled with a college and career night. And there are the incarcerated and formerly incarcerated partnerships at Columbia College.
Here locally, there's the Stanislaw Futures. Of course, We both serve on the board of directors of the Central Valley Higher Education Consortium, and the CTE advisory committees involve people across the district from industry to advise all of our programs.
We have the CBOC. We've expanded career services offerings in work experience, practicum, internships, externships, job placement, and precessor nursing. We also have relationships with CANA, the College Area Neighborhood Association, and with the WIB.
Oh, sorry. And so involvement in the Workforce Investment Board, Leadership Modesto, Motherlode Jobs, and economic development up in the Tuolumne County. And there's Opportunity Stanislaus, host site for Rotary, Lions Club, Kiwanis, and other local service clubs. And of course, the foundation board's comprised of community members that support both colleges.
We're working on partnerships with Brandman University, CSU Stanislaus. I'm drawing a blank on the university in Washington. Al, can you help me out? Sorry about that. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. With Bellevue University and with University of Phoenix for advanced nursing.
And we've been increasing adult education, regional partnerships via the regional consortium, and that's the CVHEC as we fondly know it, and then the community education programs.
We offer contract education. We engage with the Stanislaus Literacy Council and the Stanislaus Community Foundation.
The National Ag Science Center, Great Valley Museum, Wild Planet Day.
Science Nights, the High School Counselor Breakfast, the Stanislaus County Education Partnership.
Fine and Performing Arts Shows, the famous MAPS series, Science Colloquium, and Salvation Army and Emmanuel Lutheran Church Student Pantry Partnership. And of course, Columbia College is part of the Tuolumne County Food Bank Network. So, Henry, if you feel tired, we're sorry. And, you know, Jill and I, when we were preparing, we knew it would be kind of like a laundry list, and we wanted to make it less so. But our deans and VPs worked in groups to put this list together, to connect the work of the colleges to what the chancellor had been given as his charges. And I think to put it in that context was really important. So that gives meaning to our work and know that we really are all working together to serve this district. But wait, we have more. So back to our friend Guided Pathways. At Columbia College, the work that we're doing related specifically to Guided Pathways is launch pads, and that's just our fancy name for meta majors, and it's a way to support students who have a general idea of what they want to study but are not sure about a specific major. So, for instance, health sciences. The launch pads are to help them figure out what their interest is and what's available as a career field in health science. Our favorite friend, Starfish, you've heard about it several times. This is going to be an awesome tool that's being implemented for not only for the counselors to help students create custom plans for students, step-by-step roadmap about how do they get to the finish line, but so that students can also conduct some of their own planning and see how things will lay out for them. Our counseling department has created advising guides, so it kind of gives an idea of, it brings the degree to life. This is what, this degree, these are the fields that you can go into, and here's what you need to take to earn, to finish in 2 years. And we've been working on multi-year schedules so that students can get a general idea of how quickly they can finish. We've improved our placement processes, including multiple measures, co-requisite remediation, and that means instead of making you start a level below college level, that you enroll in the college, beginning intro college level class, and then you are enrolled in a sidecar class, which is a skill building refresher course, and you do those things at the same time to help the students be successful in the college level class. So we've reduced a semester in their timeline. And then career services expansion, again, using strong workforce money. We've created a career and job placement technician at Columbia College, and so that students can explore careers and get help with identifying their career goals.
And so at MJC, where they're calling their meta majors launch pads at Columbia College, we're calling them schools. And so, for example, we have a proposed School of Language Arts and Education at MJC. And this summer, we have faculty that are engaged. Our academic faculty are working with our counselors to design what we're calling Flexible First 15. And it's designing a 15-unit cluster of courses that a student can take within their school, even if they're not exactly sure what they want their major to be, and that it will get them well on their way and allow them to be flexible among any of the majors within that school. And as you can take a look there, much of what we have in place around guided pathways is in alignment with what you just heard from Angie. We also have fully launched our cohort advising model at scale, and we're calling that approach our success teams, where we have counselors, disciplined faculty, and our success coaches working together in support of our students.
And one of the things that several of the things that we've been doing to try to increase FTES, but also to get students to move through their programs in a timely manner, is that in this past spring, the college conducted research regarding student unit taking patterns, and the results indicate that under-enrollment among full-time students may be discouraging student completion. So we've launched the Think 30 campaign, and to encourage students to enroll in 30 units over the course of the year, and that may mean 12 units in each of the full semesters, and then picking up 6 units in the summer. So it's kind of like the Think 15, but there seems to be this mindset that 15 is not doable. But research has shown, and Brandon Price could speak all day long on this, the research shows that students who are taking 15 or more units are actually more successful than students who are going part-time. During enrollment, we've seen a rapid increase. We've got the CCAP agreements, and then we've got middle college arrangement with Sonora High School. And as a result of these efforts, the number of dual enrolled students at the college has increased over 98% from spring 2017, when we had 149, to spring 2018, we had 296 students enrolled dually. And then, of course, we've talked about the distance education and how we're expanding through the curriculum. 18 new courses were approved for a DE addendum by the curriculum committee and you, the Board of Trustees, in the last academic year. And building on an idea that MJC has been using, we've implemented at Columbia College designated counselors, and this is where counselors, students meet with counselors who, depending on what their major is, which programs they're involved in. So, they go to see the same counselor over and over again and build that relationship, and that we're seeing some payoff in that regard.
And at MJC, some of the same areas of growth, continuing to message around 15 to finish, working to expand our schedule to meet student need and student demand, and again, our success teams. And at the Board of Governors meeting in May, Dr. James Todd was invited, and our cohort design for student support was featured as the Vision of Success Spotlight And so the Board of Governors has heard and seen what is happening at MJC in terms of student support. In addition to this, we have also expanded our offerings to include now 28 associate degrees for transfer.
Okay. And then, of course, this is the huge one, not that the others were any less important, but this is huge because this is something that our foundation took on, and that is the Columbia College Promise, and that is to try to raise money for scholarships for all students in Tuolumne County and in Bret Harte High School. So all graduating high school seniors can attend Columbia College for the first year and not have to pay any fees. And we have a community group that's working on trying to come up with a way for the books to be covered as well. So the goals of the program were 25% of the high school seniors will attend Columbia College full-time, and traditionally it's been about 16%. 80% of high school seniors who attend full-time will complete their FAFSA, and in the past it's been about 69%. And the fundraising goal was $270,000 for a 3-year pilot program with $90,000 anticipated per year. So the progress has been, we have 243 high school seniors have applied for the Promise Scholarship for this fall. 136 of those have already registered. 119 are registered for 12 units or more, and we're on track to reach the full-time attendance goals of that 25%. We've reached the year one fundraising target of 90%. And so going out, I once again find myself on the front page of the newspaper today. But when a president can leave a district on the front page of the newspaper and it's all good, you know you've done a good job. So I was on the paper, and I have it here for you, is that at my retirement reception, the Sonora Area Foundation came and presented us with a check for $20,000 to fill the gap on our first fundraising year and took us over the line. And so we've met that 1-year goal, and we are more than 75% of the way to our 3-year goal of $270,000. That being because we've had people that have made multi-year pledges, and many have pledged for the full 3-year pilot program. So that's my last hurrah.
So in August, we will welcome our second cohort of bachelor's degree students in respiratory care. And in December, Modesto Junior College and the Yosemite Community College District will award their first Bachelor of Science degrees. And that is incredibly exciting. And even more so is a first life has already been saved because of our program. Our faculty member, Janet Fantasia, used what she learned from a student project on a flight on her trip to Hawaii to save a man. And that's a pretty compelling story for a bachelor's degree, I think. And so that story is going to be widely told. It's pretty amazing, but it has to do with, there's a rescue bag available on an airplane. I never knew that. I knew they had to have an AED, a defibrillator, but Janet learned that from a student project when they had a man in distress on the plane, and it turned out he'd eaten peanuts and had a horrific reaction. And she was able to first ask for the bag, then demand it, and saved him. So pretty exciting that came out of a student project in our program. But on behalf of Angie and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for entrusting the colleges to us. Thank you for working alongside us. We are really proud of what has taken place at Columbia College and at Modesto Junior College. And I know for me that one of the very hard things is going to not be telling the MJC story. I am certainly going to miss that. But thank you and all the best.
Ditto what she said. I'm off to be a red hat lady. And I have my first red hat.
Thank you both very much. Any further questions for either?
I just want to say that was a great tandem report, and the two new presidents come in and have some big shoes to fill.
That's some very fashionable shoes, I might add.
Yeah. So we'll move on now to item 5.2, association reports, and we'll start off with the Student Senate Activity Report.
Good evening, members of the board. So today, ASMGC members volunteered at the Pirates Day. Tomorrow, ASMGC members will be volunteering the New Student Day. Currently, ASMGC is attending summer training in order to get ready for the coming year. That's all I have for you today. Any questions?
Brief and quick, we like that. So thank you very much. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other reports? And we'll turn it now over, maybe give an opportunity for our new student trustee to the board. Did you have any comments that you'd like to add, or for Columbia or anything?
Just that I'm looking forward to working with everybody when they come back from summer break.
All right, thank you very much. We'll turn now to the faculty representative to the board, Alan McKissick.
I'm sorry to miss the last board meeting. I had a wonderful opportunity for travel. I have to credit my librarian wife's research planning and marketing for making it happen. I will say she consults with me throughout the process, and sometimes there's a compromise as when she agreed to take me with her. But since I last spoke to you, the board, I had a very informative and encouraging meeting with Chancellor Young. He did discuss with me, among other important matters, the general concept of a program that would facilitate foreign students to attend and succeed at our colleges. I believe it was discussed briefly at the last board meeting. I know the idea is an inception, and for other reasons too, including timing, there has yet been no significant discussion among faculty, such as at an academic senate meeting. So I'll just speak for myself and say that I find it to be an impressive example of thinking outside the box in a way that can benefit our college and community. I also want to say, now that I'm back in town, teaching summer school and so on, I do hope to continue my meetings and consultations with each of the trustees.
Hey, thank you, Alan. Any questions for Alan? Okay. Academic Senate activity reports. I don't see either academic Senate president here. I know I got an email from one. Okay, we're getting off easy tonight. And I see there's no report for LTAC. Unless, Yolanda, do you have nothing at the okay, all right. No report for YFA. Okay. Save the best for last. CSEA, Local 420, President Partridge.
Good evening again, trustees. I will try not to be as passionate as I was before, but
we've come to appreciate about you, Debbie. So.
my message is still as serious. And I am typically called a Pollyanna. Matter of fact, my beloved dog's name is Pollyanna. But there are some things within the district that need to change. And I would like to preface it by saying, absolutely, the colleges are both doing great work. We're helping a lot of students. There's lots of funds from initiatives to get those services to the students, and we are doing great work, but there's still some very serious underlying problems. Trust and respect. The theme is trust. Personally, on my evaluations over the years, I've always received the highest mark on observance of work hours. However, in 2015, the campus safety department was requested by the vice chancellor of IT at that time to monitor when I arrived to work. And I was wondering why these security vehicles were there. Every morning I get it, hey, how you doing? Good morning, whatever. And I don't know why. It was never reported to me why. But it was really funny because when my hours are 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. There's no security officers there at 3, 4, 5 when I actually left campus. But in addition to that, what hurts the most is I represent the members in campus safety. And here the leadership is showing campus safety that I'm not a person to be trusted. And this went even further to where security people were asking members of my department if I do my job. Why? I still don't know why. After several months, it stopped. So I guess it was proved that I got to work on time. I don't know. Great Classified Staff Retreat. Back in the 80s, this was started with professional development funds, which I know those funds have gone away. Classified staff were able to arrange a retreat that followed what the Great Faculty Retreat was. And so every other year, we would do this. And as the times got harder with money, it was harder to get the money. We did have money that was promised to us, but then it was determined that we needed to have the Disney Institute, which was a one-day event, which was wonderful. But if you don't get buy-in from the administration, it's not going to do any good. I know of one department where the manager grasped this and has engaged his staff and listened to them, appreciate their inputs, take them under his wings if they need help. But I only know of one department. So that was a lot of money for one day. And hey, I am the biggest Disney fan there is. So, I enjoy it thoroughly. But to keep that momentum going, classified staff cannot do it on their own. It has to come from leadership. In regards to release time, the CSEA president is allowed 3 hours of overtime a week. If they're not able to get their job done. It's called release time, but it's not really release time because nobody does our jobs when we're doing our CSEA work. And I can tell you there's many times when the district wants to have an MOU, wants to negotiate something, get it on the board agenda, and we comply. And I was willing to do that, but I don't expect anybody else to do that. So that's something I think that needs to be looked at. Appointments to councils. It's very difficult to get classified professionals to serve. It's just difficult for them to get released from their job because they still have to do their job. The 2 hours they're in a meeting, they still have to go back and do their job. It's also looked down by other fellow classified employees who have to step up and help, cover because this person has gone to a meeting. And in addition, I've had members ask me, what am I on council for? What am I supposed to do? And when I appoint someone, I always inform them that you need to give a classified perspective, report back to CSEA, will help you keep the communication lines open. But often classified are not asked for their input, and when input is given, it's basically tolerated. There needs to be a change, and it needs to come from the top. There needs to be an orientation when a new council member is appointed so they know what their responsibilities are. And if they provide input, it should be heard, or why are we wasting our time? I was kind of forced into the CSE presidency as there was nobody else that would do it. So I did step up, and when I do something, I do it 100%. I did make an appointment with Jill Stearns. And throughout that conversation, we were just, we're going to work together and everything was good. But I did mention that morale was down. And the comment I got back was, you just got a 5% raise. What more do you want? And I said, well, there's a lot more to job satisfaction than money. And our members love serving students. But they also would like to be appreciated and engaged. And then I also said that I really would like for our members to be happy to come to work. I'd say my first 20 years of employment here, I couldn't wait to get to work. I loved it. And her comment back was, it's not in your contract that we make you happy. So if that's what's coming from the top, how can you expect to keep coming and giving and giving and giving? At one time when we were in difficult negotiations, a faculty member came up to me and said, wouldn't it be funny if classified had to pay for their medical benefits and faculty didn't? It was a time of contentious negotiations. That's the kind of respect we get. I have a lot more situations that I'm not going to say because they're reported to me by members who are still working here, and I don't want them to be retaliated against. But there's some atrocities that are going on in this district that is being asked of classified employees. I love MJC, and I hope with new leadership with Chancellor Young and the two new presidents that we can expect a positive change in the climate. It has to start from the top. A quote from Forbes magazine when they were helping Fox News improve their image was, "You cannot expect an excellent customer experience if you do not have an excellent employee experience." I'm sure hoping with the new leadership and Henry's guidance that MJC and Columbia can once again be a rewarding place to work. Can I talk about the CalPERS thing, or I'm out of time?
Oh, no, sure.
Okay. This was added on my comments after the retirees reported on their CalPERS. We have asked the district to rectify this situation for our retirees who trusted the district to report their earnings correctly. We have been told that the district cannot help out as it would be a gift of public funds. Is it a gift of public funds to correct an error? If you are penalized and you have to pay fees, is that a gift of public funds? How will our retirees receive justice? If there's a lawsuit filed and the district loses, won't that be more expensive than paying for their negligence once proven? Can you imagine making a decision on retiring based on the information provided by the district and CalPERS, and this surprise is forced on you after several years? Not too long ago, we had a probationary classified employee released from service after 3 months. Several months later, I saw on the board agenda a payout to this individual for $50,000. Where did that come from? Is that a gift of public funds? Granted, I don't know all the legalities. I was not involved in that. I don't understand the legalities of the matter, but certainly I believe that the innocent retirees deserve more than an employee that was quickly determined was not a good fit. And I just got some information. The retirees that are involved, the total amount they owe back to CalPERS is approximately $86,000. We're talking a lot of money. One family, $50,000. It's devastating. Other than that, I'm done. Okay, unless you have any questions.
Well, I would just like to add, unless there's any questions, that point you back to, because the comment was made earlier, and it's my fault for not bringing it up. On item 2.3, the board was briefed in closed session on the issue of the CalPERS final compensation issue. So it has been brought to our attention. So thank you, Debbie.
Okay, thank you.
I have one last question, Debbie. I'm sorry, is this your last time?
It will be my last CSA report to the board. My last working day of the district is July 5th, and I'm very fortunate that, oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Sherry Suarez, our first vice president, is stepping up to presidency, and I leave our chapter in very good hands.
Well, thank you for all your service to the district.
Okay, we'll move on now to item 5.3, activities and announcements, Columbia College. You got 30 seconds, Angela, I'm sorry.
Well, you have my report, and it's the summer of young people on the campus.
There you go, with a smile. There it is.
Volleyball camps, and Mad About Science.
And I'd just like to add on your report earlier, you can't put a price on that picture of all those people there with the beautiful scenery up at Columbia College. Sorry, Joel, but you know. So we'll now move on to item, unless there's any questions for Angie, I'm sorry. All right, moving on now to item 5.4, activities and announcements, Modesto Junior College.
So again, you have our announcements, and I just like to add that if you happen to have the privilege of spending time at the DMV in Turlock or Modesto, you will see our ads now on the screen, and we have a big billboard on 99.
And you'll also see MJC ads on our local cable stations as well, so thank you. Any questions for Jill? Okay, we'll move on now to item 5.5, presentation updates, Yosemite Community College District, Chancellor Young.
Thank you. I want to begin by presenting a token of recognition to Debbie Partridge. We have tried to give her this award a number of times, but we were unsuccessful because she was on vacation. So if I could ask the chair of the board to present to her this little memento of your service to the district council. Thank you. As all of us know, this board meeting is also the last board meeting for President Stearns and President Fairchilds. So on behalf of the district, I want to express my sincere thanks to President Stearns and President Fairchilds for their service to the community colleges in this district. You know, each one of them takes on the leadership role at one end of the district and the other so that our district can be properly served. And during the time that they have been here, they have brought a lot of positive changes to each of the colleges. They provided stable leadership. They have helped kick off a number of initiatives that are going on statewide. They have been able to support our student learning effort. And so there are many, many other things to go. But tonight, in token of the appreciation, I'm asking the chair here to present to them not a Rolex watch, but each a jewelry box. Okay. And the recognition here is for their distinguished service and commitment to the Yosemite Community College District and the community.
No, if you will.
Next, I want to mention that we had the Central Services Spirit Award. It recognizes the exemplary performance of staff members that represents a level of service significantly over and above the specific job responsibilities. This year, 3 individuals were awarded the 2018 Spirit Award. And Ms. Laurie Smith, Benefits Specialist in Human Resources, Mr. Lawrence Montoya, our Maintenance Specialist Locksmith, and of course, Ms. Krista Noakes, Executive Assistant in Information Technology. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the Chancellor? All right, thank you. Moving on now to shows 5.6, grant activity update. This is an information-only item. Information was provided in your agenda packet. Are there any questions with respect to grant activity? Nope. We'll move on now to 5.7, the bond update. We'll give you 45 seconds. How's that going?
I think I might be able to do it.
All right.
Good evening. My name is Judy Lanchester for our new student representative. I'm the Director of Facilities Planning and Operations. Okay. Welcome. Good evening, board members and Chancellor. I believe you were provided a packet of information with regards to some of the deficiencies on the bond projects. At our last May meeting, it was requested that in addition to providing documentation on all the good that's happening with the bond measure, we also inform you of some of the challenges that we may have or may be experiencing at this particular time. Currently, we have many projects that are going before the board tonight that are being completed. Some of them are the parking lot right next door, the hammer throw, and if you would like to ask me any questions about that during this presentation, I'd be happy to answer those questions, but at this time I would like to talk about those items that are giving us a bit of a pause. One of them is the water intrusion at the Science Community Center. We have looked into the various methodologies of water that enter into this building and identified that 2 of them may be causing us problems. Not may, but probably are. That is the HVAC water lines inside of the building and also the deionized water systems. The deionized water systems currently have been repaired and staff can make those repairs in-house. It's normal in a building's lifespan to find some leaks in a building, and those that can be repaired by us are done so quickly. So we have been doing that with the deionized water lines. The HVAC water is a different matter. The overall design for this particular water application inside of the Science Community Center called for the building to run 24/7, 365 days a year, just like a hospital would. Unfortunately, because we are an institution that does experience power outages and mechanical failures, those are the times that the assembly that is causing the issue in the building, we start to see those leaks. And as with all things with water, it comes down, it seeks its lowest level, and that is what we are experiencing. And at the science building, we have some precious items on the first floor that do cause us some concern. Quite some time ago, actually, Dr. Stearns and I have been talking about this when I was fortunate enough to come back to Modesto from Columbia and start to begin some discussion on this.
but I needed to look at trying to locate and find some funding to be able to address this, as it was not a building deficiency that we could tag back to under the one-year warranty at this time. And again, I preface that by saying at this time because what I need to do is perform a study of these assemblies and basically dismantle them. And when I dismantle them, I need to be prepared that there are sufficient staff in the building to collect the water, because there are literally hundreds of these assemblies. And I believe that's where we're experiencing the problem. There is a rubber gasket. We have the Fahrenheit, the 200 degrees Fahrenheit moving through these systems, and this gasket is what causes some of those water failures, causes the leakage when it expands, compresses down. So at this point in time, we're doing some investigation, and it will be educated investigation as to what that is. And I need to look at closing that facility. Again, that's a difficult task because it does run very often. The item on the agenda for budget adjustment 7.3 that we'll be talking about a little bit later in this board meeting allows me the opportunity to start the exploratory process into this and to complete the process of repairing this. Do we have any questions about that before I proceed to the next item?
I have a question. Judy, you said that power outages can be a source. The board has been told many times that the reason for the 410 was energy efficiencies. So during the 410, you do or don't shut down the science building?
We do not. It runs 24/7, 365, and the only time we have power outages recently, I believe it was in 16, it was on February 17th, we lost power to this complete campus. The generator did fire at the Science Community Center, but that only backs up a small percentage of that building, mostly our cadavers, those necessary items that we need. So it's those times when we have those failures, like MID outages or mechanical failures to the central plant that supports the Science Community Center, that we are experiencing these leaks of a devastating nature to the first floor items.
Thank you.
The other item is the Science Community Dome. The dome is experiencing some peeling paint on the exterior of that particular dome. And at this time, the research is showing that it may be the preparation of that particular material. I have some information that that dome was repainted within the one-year warranty timeframe, so I'm exploring that with the original architect of that, and I will focus back on that with you at a later date, depending upon how informed you want to be on these issues. Any questions about that one?
Any questions?
Yes. Yes. The last item that I would like to inform you about is the plastic lumber on the district office building. What we're seeing currently at the district office building is that the plastic lumber was not allowed a section that would allow for expansion and contraction in our high heat and our low temperatures here in the valley. When I did measurements on the exterior of this building, we were seeing expansion and contraction of 1 to 4 inches. At the juncture where it connects to the support beams, we don't see that piece of vacancy for the lumber to move back and forth without fracture. I reached out to the architect and also to the contractor on this and requested that they repair it at their own expense, as I feel that this is a failure, so we are in negotiations about that, and we're trying to navigate that. Are there any questions about that item?
Any questions? Nope.
Okay, that's it. Did I make it in 45 seconds?
Close
No?
enough.
Okay, well, I tried.
I do want to say thank you so much for sharing this with us, because we do want to know all the pluses, but we need to know other things that affect it. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, we'll be bringing forward now.
Thank you. Okay, moving on now to item 5.8, the Forelli update. No, I'll take it. Yeah. We'll take it. We're this far in now, so might as well just get it done.
Seems to be frozen. Excuse me a minute. Can I use this one? Good evening, board members, Chancellor Young. Thank you for allowing us to have a chat with you today about Forelli. You had asked for some information about this contract, so this is going to be a short presentation. What we tried to do was put together the data from the contracts that we have and the invoices and so forth. And so I'm going to be sharing this presentation with our Vice Chancellor of Information Technology, Roger Clegg. So we will get started. So beginning in August 2015, we had the first contract with Forelli. They did an HR process review for us. The deliverable was an on-site visit of the colleagues' HR module use and follow-up report. The total amount of the contract was $19,000, and that status of that contract was complete, and the HR reports were improved. They improved the operational efficiency. The next project was in August 2016, SQL conversion, and also supplying the interim vice chancellor of information technology. And please, I'm not going to try to define these projects for you. Roger's going to take care of that for you. That's when he gets up here. So that the deliverable was a migration to Microsoft SQL database and move to Central Services Building. The cost of that contract was $300,000, including $35,000 per month plus travel for the interim vice chancellor. Now, the interim vice chancellor did not get that $35,000. This was, one of those companies that hires out employees, so he got a certain amount, and the company got the remainder of the amount. And that also was completed. The next project was an accreditation report in December 2016, out of which an information technology plan was produced, and that cost $25,000, and that was also completed. MIS reporting in November 2016, and that was to move away from custom reporting to colleagues delivered reporting system. The cost was $38,500. That contract status is complete, although I believe Roger has some more information about it. And finally, for the district, a project manager as of August 2016, and this was contracted for managing SQL conversion and CROA implementation, and that was $27,500 per month plus travel, and the status was the SQL conversion was complete and the CROA was incomplete, and again, Roger will comment on that. So in total, the district paid Forelli $838,876. Moving to Modesto Junior College, they had several contracts with Forelli. One as a project manager began in February 2017, and they contracted for managing various MJC projects, including SharePoint, Starfish, mobile, self-service upgrade, and Active Directory. The contract amount was again $27,500 per month plus travel, with a not-to-exceed amount of $165,000. The Forelli components were complete. IT completed the Active Directory on May 31st of this year, and then Forelli handed off Starfish on May 31st, 2018 to IT for project completion and closeout. SharePoint implementation began in November 2016, and that is a portal for all district-wides for MJC, Columbia, and Central Services. The cost was $64,750. It is complete but requires refinement. And finally, Hobson Starfish, which was started in October 2016. You heard a little bit about that tonight. It's a EPI for degree planning. The total cost of the contract was $199,200, and it's partially complete in that it's used by the counselors, not yet by the students, but it required the active delivery to be completed, which was done as of May 31st this year. So by fall semester, we expect this to be completely implemented. So in total, the Forelli contract for the colleges was $360,000, $360,116. In total, the district paid $1,198,992 to Forelli since 2015. And so Roger is going to go over with you what these projects were and how well Forelli met or did not meet the terms of its contracts with the district. Roger.
Thank you and good evening. It's on here, is it? Which one are we using? This one, thank you. Okay, first and foremost, this isn't the first time that I've come across Forelli. I was retained by Peralta Community College District to review Forelli's performance with them. Similar set of circumstances. They spent a lot of time and money getting Forelli to replace permanent staff. Their CTO, Vice Chancellor, had left. Some of their directors had left. And Forelli ended up billing Peralta Community College similar amounts to what we're seeing here. And the board, quite rightly, was concerned that we did a review to make sure that they actually got what they had promised to deliver and got what they paid for. So first of all, I want to touch, I know there are going to be lots of questions about why we didn't do this ourselves and how else could we have done this, because it is a lot of money. So I'm going to look at consumer versus in-house completion. Well, first of all, just as with Peralta, the Vice-Chancellor position was vacant. There was no leader in the organization to take control of the situation, manage the projects through to completion. So Forelli took that on as part of what they had to do. And our own staff, and I'm not putting our staff down when I say this, didn't have the specific experience moving to the new platforms that would have made this an easy-to-do project for ourselves. So Forelli brought a lot of outside knowledge to the table on this. Forelli is one of those few companies across the nation, there are a couple that I can think of, that have the expertise in purely higher education with Starfish, with Colleague, and with Oracle. And they were the three players in what we were trying to do. We were moving away from Oracle to structured query language, a different type of database, very similar, but sufficiently different you have to be experienced in them. Oracle wouldn't have helped us because we're abandoning their platform, so they wouldn't have wanted to play. There's Forelli. The other company that one might have looked at is a company called SIG, Strata Information Group. They have most of the expertise, but none whatsoever in Starfish, in Colleague. If you look at their website, they look at all of the others, but Colleague is not one of the platforms they support. So one of the next questions, just to conclude that, if we had tried to do that with internal resources alone, the risk would have been huge. I can't say how it would have turned out. All that I can say, had I been in the situation myself at that time as Vice Chancellor of IT, I would have certainly been looking for outside expertise with a number of migrations that we were talking about completing in a fairly short period of time. I wouldn't have been content to accept that risk on behalf of the board and indeed the colleges and the district. So why not go to RFP? That's a question that I know that has also been answered. Well, first of all, the code for RFP, typically, I think it's just gone up to 90,200 that you can accept without going to RFP as the current limit. But there are certain exceptions. And what we found is that it fell under the statutory exemptions to competitive bidding. Contract Code Section 2651 and Government Code Section 50360 both indicate that under the circumstances we were quite within our rights as a college district to do this without bid.
And I disagree with that. I want that on the record. We have a duty and responsibility to ensure that taxpayer funding is spent appropriately, and we did not do that in this instance.
I would not argue with you because that's not what I'm here for, but I would state that we do have a legal opinion letter on file.
What were the circumstances that made it legal?
Well, one of the circumstances is inevitability and futility. What happens is there are certain times when the outcome of a bid is almost certain to be a particular company. This was one of those circumstances. There were no other companies that had that spread of capabilities at that time that we could have retained. So we could have spent, typically an RFP would cost you $50,000, and the inevitability of futility exception means that if you're going to spend $50,000 and the result is almost certainly going to be what it was anyway, why spend the $50,000 and come back with the same result? It would have just increased our liability to pay, not reduced it. That's what the code addresses. I'm not going to argue the legal merits of the code. All I'm going to do is state what the code is.
And Roger, were we not under a timeline?
That was the next point. Time to actually go out to do an RFP of the scale that we're talking about would have delayed all of the projects by about 6 months, which would not have been, and then it would have put us under a time crunch, which once again would increase the risk of the projects not being completed successfully. So we were essentially between a rock and a hard place, and I don't disagree with the chairman's position. I would prefer to go out for bids where it makes sense, but sometimes one just can't. So I just mentioned the inevitability, futility. So why did we end up with Forelli having not gone out for bid? And there are a few companies, as I mentioned, let alone in California, focusing on higher ed that have the expertise with Colleague, Starfish, and Oracle, and SQL, structured query language. They are the 4 areas of expertise that whoever we selected needed to be able to be competent in all of those areas. Had we selected somebody with competency in 2 or 3 of those areas, we would have had to have a second company with competence in the other areas. It would have made the projects far more complex, far more complicated, and far more prone to failure by elevating the risk of too many moving parts. As I mentioned, we didn't have the expertise in-house that we could have taken on all of these projects at the same time. Not only did we not have the expertise in-house, we didn't have the physical pairs of hands, because at the moment, at that time and at the moment, most of our time in IT is, for want of a better expression, used keeping the lights on, keeping the stuff going that we have right now. We have a lot of very aging equipment. It requires a lot of support. So to take on new projects like this while trying to keep the other essential services going, we physically didn't have the human resources to be able to do that. I mentioned already that within California, certainly, the Strata Information Group would have been an alternative. And in my review, I've worked with Strata Information Group in the past. In my review of what they are able to provide, they could not have provided all of the services that we required at that time. Any more questions on that part? Moving right along.
There's a question over here.
Yes. Oh, not at all. Inevitability, yes.
Starting again, someone had to make the determination of futility and inevitability, and I haven't followed the paper trail like my colleague Jim Solomon has. But I'm wondering, and I just simply don't know, if the determination, what part the board played in the determination, and how they were informed of the rationale and the evidence behind such a determination.
I'm sorry, I don't have an answer to that immediately, but I can certainly check that out. As you know, I wasn't here at the time. Perhaps Susan does.
And actually, I don't. We cannot go by what conversations happened at that time. We can only do a review of the documents provided. My understanding is that this effort was led by the then chancellor, but we cannot, in any way verify conversations that did or did not happen at that time. But we can review the documents and tell you, what we see in the fiscal arena, and then also in the matter of whether the contract provisions were met.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. I want to say that it's clear the situation in which you're investigating this and the evidence available and the evidence that's not available. But I think that's a very critical question in terms of, say, the faculty leaders and members of the public have asked that question. But I see the limitations under which you're working.
And certainly I'd be happy to go back and dig a little deeper to see if there's anything I can find on the decision-making process itself. So just a general overview of the information technology consultants and how they work, and Forelli in particular, so that we know that regardless of how we got to the decision, that the decision appears to have been one based in judgment at the time. First of all, Forelli is one of those companies that works to international standards, and they work to the ITIL standards, the Information Technology Infrastructure Library Framework Standards, and to ISO 9000 standards, which is the International Standards Organization, which lays out the fundamentals of quality management systems, QMS. They work to those standards. As do SIG and as do most of the other big consulting companies, but they are one of very few that focuses on the higher education sector. They use best practices throughout their processes, and I've reviewed the documentation and what they did and when they did it. Once again, ITIL and ISO 9000 are the standards they're working to. And when they produced project managers for us, project managers were working to PMP, Project Management Professional Standards, as set down by the Project Management Institute. Value for money. One can always question the value for money, but I just do a reality check here to look at what other people are offering. The typical hourly rate for an IT consulting from one of these kinds of companies is $200 to $250 an hour. That's the way it is. You may or may not like it. That is the industry standard. If we go to a Lucian, their standard rate is $250 an hour. If you really lean on them very hard, they will give you a concession down to about $213 an hour, which is the lowest I've managed to obtain from a Lucian. Particularly with specific hard-to-find stuff, you will find that the rates go up. They can go up to $400 an hour, $500 an hour, attorney kind of rates, very easily and very quickly. So we look at what we actually paid and what we could have paid had it been set up on an hourly basis rather than negotiated the complete contract. We paid $27,500 a month for a project manager, assuming 170-hour average work month, 4 and a bit weeks. The normal rate at $200 an hour, the low end would be $34,000 a month. So in terms of hourly billing and hourly consulting, we appeared to get a good rate. Now then, I'm not passing judgment at this time on the quality of the work. I'll come to that in a moment.
Quick question.
Yes.
Are you basing, you said we got a good, comparing the hourly rate versus that. Are you basing that on a 40-hour week?
I'm basing that on a 170-hour month, 40-hour week, and a few extra hours for the fact that most months have another couple of days.
Okay, but he didn't work a 40-hour week.
I can't comment on how many hours a week he worked. I wasn't here. All I can comment on is how many hours he was billing. It was hypothetically a full-time position. Now then, the fact that he was not at the college necessarily all of the time doesn't necessarily mean that he wasn't working on behalf of the college. I can't comment to that because I just don't know. At the high end, for the Vice-Chancellor replacement, using the same basis, we were paying $35,000 a month, assuming a full-time work month, and at the high end at just $250 an hour, it would have been $42,500 a month. Realistically, a lot of places would charge a lot more for a Vice-Chancellor level consultant because that's at the higher end of the range for sure.
Roger?
Yes.
So you said there are very few companies that do this.
Yes.
Why is that? I mean, how many colleges and universities are out there who might need this kind of work?
Higher education is a very niche market. It's not an area where you can come into higher education and expect to take over the market very, very quickly. If you look at Ellucian, for example, they have their own consulting group as part of Ellucian. They have 80% of the California market in higher education and colleges. 80% of the market, it makes it very, very difficult for a new player to break into that market space. And the same applies with the consulting. There are very few people that consult in higher education as a primary means of generating their revenue. And breaking into that market, because they are fairly established players, like Ferrelli and SIG, is very difficult.
Can we go back to the slide on the fees before we leave that?